Good evening and welcome to our Monday, March 18th, 2024 regular council meeting, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the March 18th, 2024 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7 p.m. All those in favor? And if opposed, seeing none, carried. We can now rise for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, let's move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have an addition to the agenda this evening, being an item in closed session regarding negotiations. We also have several items that have been requested to be pulled from the consent item, or the consent agenda for discussion. Those being items, just a moment. Item 10I, the resolution regarding the need for increased funding for libraries and museums. Item 10J, the resolution regarding amending Blue Box regulations. And item 10N, the resolution regarding the Gardiner Expressway and Don Valley Parkway.
All right, thank you. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Moving to the approval of previous meeting minutes. Are there any amendments or corrections that anybody noticed? Seeing none, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, February 20th, 2024. Special meeting minutes, March 4th, 2024. All those in favor? Carried. Then we'll move into presentations and delegations. 6A, formation of Junior Optimist Club and dinner auction. And Donkers, if you'd like to step up, there's a gray button to push and then speak into the microphone, and it will go red whenever it's live.
Good evening, Mayor McDonald and Council of South Glengarry. Thank you for giving me some time tonight on your full agenda. I am here on behalf of the Lancaster Optimist Club. First, I would like to mention that we have started a Junior Optimist Club. We have 10 students aged 8 to 12 years old. The purpose of the club is for them to learn leadership, teamwork, and giving back to their community. They have chosen a president, a secretary, and a treasurer, but the whole group votes to make all their decisions. Last week, they did a cleanup of Smithfield Park, which resulted in several bags of garbage that they were able to clean up. And we are in talks at the moment with Sherry Lynn to do some community garden boxes in the park as well. The kids will be doing these we adults, of course, will be helping them build them, and they'll be taking care of them. We would like to open this up to other students, if possible. However, our adult manpower is very limited in our club right now, so unless we get a few more members to help with the Junior Optimist program, we won't be able to expand it too much more. We've got a few kids already that have signified that they wanted to join, so we'll see what happens. Now, my main reason for being here tonight is that we would like to do a fundraiser. We are undertaking a fundraiser, and first of all, I'd like to apologize for not coming to council first and foremost to discuss this Smithfield project that we are wanting to work on. I did email Mayor McDonald, and I thank you for your kind response. Let me say that we greatly appreciate our relationship with the township, and we appreciate the financial and other support as well that you always give us. So after many conversations with Sherry Lynn, we are hoping to raise enough money to purchase a piece of playground equipment for Smithfield Park. To accomplish this goal, we are having a silent and live dinner auction at St. Mary's Centre on April 27th. What we are asking from council is quite simply, we would like to see a physical presence at the event from council members, which means purchasing a ticket for the auction, and please bring your family and friends as well. The tickets are $40 a piece. But you will get a delicious 4-course meal for that price, and of course the option to purchase many fantastic items that we have donated already. So that's about it. We're just hoping that we can count on council supporting us in this event.
Councillor Bougie, and thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ann, for all you do for our community and the Optimist Club. This is a great, I guess, new initiative that you've taken on with the junior members, and my kids often go to Smithfield Park, so that's great that they were able to clean up. I saw you posted that, and you can definitely count on me and my wife to attend the dinner. So thank you
Perfect.
for all you do.
Excellent, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lang,
We'll be there.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor McDonnell.
We'll see you there, and yes, thank you for everything you do for our community with everything you're involved in.
Great, you're welcome. It's our pleasure, believe me.
I believe I see Councillor Jaworski's come off mute.
Well, I don't want to be left out. I'll be there too, and
Great.
I'm not there right now. And like everyone said, thanks for all you do. I know you have a team with the Optimist Club and good with you, but I know that you're a big part of that horsepower, so thanks.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I imagine I have to think I'd be there too. It's right in the backyard. There's no reason not to be. I can't guarantee Casey as much as Trevor can guarantee Laura. She's slightly more shy, but we'll work on it. And with the silent auction, Councillor Bougie, I've gone to several with him. He's a fan of them. So you're bringing in a good person for that part of it too.
Perfect, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to action requests, 7A, canteen operations, ventilations. Ms. Harbers, and I'll read the resolution as you're walking. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-32 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry choose one of two options. Option A, move forward with procurement of ventilation for the Charland Recreation Centre canteen and that the project be funded by the Recreation Buildings Reserve. Or option B, not move forward with the procurement of ventilation for the Charland Recreation Centre or canteen. Ms. Harbers.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So earlier this year, we were approached by some canteen operators, including like our current operator and other operators, to ask about the ventilation at the canteen because it currently does not support the installation of oil fryers or the use of oil fryers. So we had our fire chief and our lead hand look at options and then also get in a contractor to provide quotes. just so that we know what we're looking at moving forward and if it was something that we potentially could look into, just because we will be issuing the RFP for the next year's canteen contract, and we want to make sure the information in the RFP is accurate because we have to include what all the site provides. So obviously, after investigating this, we see that, you know, it's quite costly to do this type of ventilation, and also the amount of space that it would take up to install such ventilation. The canteen space isn't actually that big, so it would take up quite a bit of the counter space. Once we looked into it, we're not recommending it, but we thought that, you know, this is kind of council's decision as to whether we do provide that investment in the canteen. Although I do believe that we'd probably have more contractors interested in the canteen and renting it out if we had that ventilation. But I mean, we were able to operate this year and all the previous years that it was operational. So right now we're not recommending it, as it's in the report that, you know, we have other items in our reserves that we're hoping to spend that money on in the future that's come out of our building condition assessments and will be through asset management. So yeah, we are recommending to not move forward with the option to include the ventilation, but it's up for council's discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Harbers. I saw Councillor McDonnell, and then we'll go to Deputy Mayor Lang.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Ms. Harbers, for the report. I'd agree with you. I don't think it's a major priority for this building at this point in time. Maybe sometime down the line in the future when there is, say, a major renovation, or we have a little clearer path as to what we want to do with this building, whether it's this council or future councils. So I don't think it's a priority for now. It is nice to know that it is an astronomical price. It wasn't put out there for anybody watching, but it's over $150,000 just to put in this ventilation. I don't see the return on investment that way, so I appreciate your recommendation.
Deputy Mayor Lang.
Yeah, Councilor McDonnell said it very well.
All right, no other comments. So then that, Stephanie does have a comment. Sorry, Councillor Jaworski. Thank you very much. So that seems council's for option B not moving forward. So I'll read the resolution again with option B selected. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-32 be received and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry choose option B, not move forward with the procurement of ventilation for the Charlottenburg-Lancaster Recreation Center canteen. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Thank you, Ms. Harbers. Oh, sorry, you're still up. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be resolved that staff report 31-2024 be received and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry approves a request from the Glengarry Fencible Trust to waive the Tartan Hall fee in the amount of $197.75 for the 2024 gala dinner. Ms. Harbers?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a pretty straightforward report, but it's just for the Glengarry Fencibles to have their event here in Tartan Hall, a licensed event, and it's just to waive the fee for the hall for them to do their fundraising. It's my understanding that they typically had this event annually prior to the pandemic, and now this will be the first time they're coming back to have this event in this facility.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thanks for the report, and I have no problem waiving that fee. The Fencibles do a very good job of being self-sustainable. They raise a lot of money for their building, and they do it very efficiently, so I think it's something we can help out with.
All right, then we'll vote on it. All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. So with the canoe race, yeah, comfy, yeah. Comfy chair, that's 3 in a row here. Raisin River, and that's Sam's comment, in case you find it funny, I'm stealing his words, or Councillor McDonnell. Raisin River Canoe Race, request for services. I don't have a mover and seconder for this particular one. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Bougie. Just because you're on the fire, I'll put the seconder to Deputy Mayor Lang. Excuse me while I just write slowly. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-30 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approves a request from the Raisin River Conservation Authority for a donation in the amount of $2,557.42 to be funded from grants and donations to cover the cost of shore-based water rescue services and the Charland Recreation Hall rental fee. Ms. Harbers.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a joint report with Fire Chief Robertson. I won't take credit for most of this report, as I believe it is Dave had put it together, and it's a copy from last year, but it's pretty much the same request that we get every year for the use of the hall, use of fire staff payroll, and then also the recreation staff time, because they come in and use the showers ahead of time, and then before they go upstairs for the event. So it's pretty much the same as every year, and yeah, we were just requesting to waive the fees for those services.
Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to be say I'm in favor of this report, and I'd like to mention the cost. In the past, they would just request, but we did put a dollar figure to the fire staff payroll, and it's good to see that. Like, it is a significant contribution from the Township of South Glengarry for a great cause, a great event. But I'd like to see that all the numbers are on there, and that we can clearly see what we are providing.
Thank you. I do have a question of Treasury in this one, or with it. Was this included in our budget package as one of our donations? No. Okay. I saw a no there, but still probably in favor. I imagine we want people to be safe going down the river. Any thumbs? Okay, perfect. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any of opposed? Seeing none, carried. Moving to the award procurement 2024-01, supply and placement of granular tenders. Ms. McDonald, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-29 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award procurement 2024-01 for the supply and placement of granular materials to Green Infrastructure Paving in accordance with their submission at a unit cost of $14.75 per ton, with the applied quantities to not exceed the approved budget of $510,000, and furthermore, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all appropriate documents. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, this one's fairly straightforward. We are really close to the budget. We would be leaving about 425 tons on the table, so to speak, from what we are hoping to put on. But in the grand scheme of things, that is not a lot, and we're very happy to be so close to our budget and hope the council will award as received. Thank you.
Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe just a comment. I mean, we are close to our budget, which is great, just slightly over. But just looking at 2 years ago, and thank you for including that number, $10.60 a ton, and we're at $14.75 in 2 years. So that's the same amount of granular. We're paying almost $150,000 more, which equates to roughly 1.5% increase in taxes. So same amount, but just a major increase. And this is the kind of pressures that we're dealing with. Just so residents are aware, like, that's a significant increase in 2 years.
It's the cost of doing current business. No changes. Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, along the same lines as Councillor Bougie, I believe 2021 and 2020, and if you go back even further back, I think we're talking $8.40 a ton, $8.20 a ton. So we're looking at $7-8 increase in about a 4 or 5 year span. It's not sustainable in the long run, and something has to break here. But every time I see this tender come back in on an annual basis, it always astonishes me, and we'll be astonished, I'm sure, again in the fall when we do our stone dust for winter maintenance, but it's unbelievable that we're up $8 a ton for supply and placement. But I guess with everything coming through between inflation, tax pressures, and cost of fuel, it doesn't help much either.
And that, if I can follow up on Councillor McDonnell's question, what are the drivers of that price increase? Because at one point, I thought it was very heavily, they said, like petrochemicals, so oil, the cost of moving things. That has somewhat subsided from that time, or it's just kind of stuck at that high level? Or is there any rhyme or reason, or kind of the suite of comments that Councillor McDonnell mentioned?
Through you, Mayor McDonald. Your guess is as good as mine. Thank you.
So I think Councillor McDonnell kind of said high labor, fuel, inflation in general. So, okay. Equipment, yes. All right, so all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. So 7E, award of procurement 2024-01, supply and placement of. Award of procurement 2024-02, renewal of Chapel Road and Second Line Road Bridge. Ms. McDonald, can I get a mover and a seconder for this particular conversation? Okay, we'll go moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Just writing that down for the record. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-28 be received into the Council of the Township of South Glengarry. Award procurement 2024-02 for the renewal of the Chapel Road Bridge, structure number 30018, and Second Line Road Bridge, structure number 30044, to Willis Kerr Contracting Limited as per their submission of $823,124 plus HST, that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents, and furthermore, that the estimated $125,000 budget overage be funded by, there's two options, option A, the road structure reserve, or option B, deferring the purchase of the mower, which is $20,000, and the box spreader, $30,000 to 2025, and by reducing the scope of the large culvert program by $65,000. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I included with the staff report the consultant's breakdown, and council may wonder who Aegis is, or Aegis. That's who purchased McIntosh Perry, so we're very familiar with McIntosh Perry doing a bridge work for us, just for continuity moving forward. However, in that package, you'll see that there's an engineer's estimate, and the engineer's estimate for this work was just over $600,000, and we ran with a budget of $700,000, which was an internal inflation factor, since all our estimates are low, and we were still low by $125,000. So just showing council that we're coming with the best information that we have available when we're bringing estimates, and sometimes they're just wrong. And we hit this tender at a good time. It was out in February. We are getting people when they want work, so it's not like we're late in the year. And we had good responses. We have 5 good bridge contractors here. The engineers did check the math, and there were some errors, so they've provided corrected that per our tender package and recommended Willis Kerr Contracting. I would like to note, so the structures reserve, when I wrote this, I didn't have our acting treasurer quite handy, since she was taking much deserved time off. And I was hoping, Mr. Mayor, that when I finish, you can ask her for her feedback on the structures reserve and its health. But while I have suggested removing the mower, that's something we would need. So instead of purchasing one, we would then be spending $11,000 fixing it out of our maintenance budget. So just so council knows, that's like a reduction, but not. The box spreader, we can rent and borrow one. I've figured that out, and we'd be good to go, and it's probably a good way forward regardless. And then taking away $75,000 from the large culverts budget means we're really only doing the Pattengale culvert this year. So that lady over there would have the best knowledge of the structures reserve. Thank you.
We'll go Deputy Mayor Lang, then Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, it seems like the best estimates that the engineers would give us ahead of time are off by at least 20%. And it's too bad. We do the best we can to budget for these things, or you guys do, and we appreciate it, but no fault of your own. You did bump it up, and it's still come out ahead. But I do think we need to move forward with the jobs. They're not going to likely be any cheaper next year. They'll likely be more expensive next year, so I think we need to move forward. The mower, 20,000, and what did you say? If we keep the old one, put 11 into it? I'm not in favor of that. I don't want to put 11 into an old one to change it next year. We got to figure out some way to buy the new one. When the repairs are over half the price of the mower, it's time to replace it. The box spreader, I really want to see that happen this year, so I'm not sure, like you said, you've found a way forward. I'm still in favor of us buying one. I don't know if you think if you can borrow or rent one, can you get it at a time that's good for us, or do we have to wait till everybody else is finished and it's, October or something? Just if you have more details on that.
I do, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I have arranged with the counties to have it worked into their work schedule. So they have one and they'll rent it to us in the same manner that they do our street sweeping.
Okay, I think I can live with that, and maybe that'll give us a little experience with it, and maybe a little more knowledge when we go out to buy our own, which I do think we likely should get, but at least we'll know if theirs works well, if it suits us, if it's the right model for what we should have. So I'm all right with that, but I'm not really in favor. And as far as the culverts, we'll do what we have to, but we did, Councillor McDowell and I were chatting earlier, we did, when we were down at 5.5, we put some back into the culverts reserve, so maybe we still have enough to do what we want to do this year. I think it was 105,000 or something, eh?
That sounds about right. 104, Councillor McIntyre said it. Councillor McIntyre, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with your comments on the box spreader, I'm halfway there. I would prefer to see you not cut any of those. I would prefer to see you use the 104 that we did add. We put it in there. Let's hope maybe another project that is coming up. I'm thinking the wall in Town Road and some other projects that we have that we're thinking we're maybe high on. Things like that might compensate this, and we can reassess that at the halfway mark of the year. But I don't really want us to cut the box spreader unless you would prefer to wait a year and go through and try one. But if that's the goal, then cut the box spreader, and I would say use the 104,000 out of the structures reserve that council added at the end, or the culverts reserve. It was put in there as more or less as a padding, and I kind of cursed it from the night of that meeting until I saw this report, and I thought back to Deputy Mayor Lang's comments, and I said, oh, I guess there's a reason he's the deputy mayor. So I would that would be my recommendation: cut the box culvert. And use the 104 we padded with.
You, Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the report, Ms. McDonald. I would be in agreement with the mower, keeping the culvert. The box spreader, like you'd mentioned, maybe it's a good kind of trial period, like we can use it, see if it works for us, and then based on that, we can either go with a different model if that doesn't work, but maybe, and if it is readily available as well, like you said, if that's the case, then I'm okay with renting it for this year and then reevaluating, but I want to see the new mower and the culvert move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Jaworski. Is there an answer from Treasury? Ms. MacDonald?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going, excuse me, we did fund the Bridge and Structures Reserve this year, 275,000 in addition to the 105,000 that was added at the end of the meeting. So I think there is sufficient money within that reserve to support the overage on what we'd estimated at budget.
If I may just follow up on Councillor Jaworski's question, there was also a question about our, I imagine it would be our equipment reserve, or roads equipment reserve. I know that we're buying graders, et cetera. I don't know if that went to zero. I remember it going quite low. Do you remember where it ended up at the end of budget?
I think that one is fairly depleted.
Councillor Jaworski, did you have a further follow-up question? Okay, so from seeing that, it seems like we're not in favor of deferring the 20,000. The box spreader, at loaning it to get a trial, kind of like, I guess it's an intellectual try to see if we can use it effectively. So do the rental there, and then the scope of the large culverts, there was some question there. Deputy Mayor Lang said he'd like to see the culverts, and Councillor Bougie, and then, okay, so then I guess it is really option A from the structures reserve, with the caveat that it's not in this resolution, but that the box spreader will be done via that agreement with the council, county council. So I'll read the resolution again, and we'll pick option A. Is that clear with everybody? That's okay, great. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-28 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award procurement 2024-02 for the renewal of the Chapel Road Bridge, structure number 30018, and Second Line Road Bridge 39300, or structure number 30044, to Willis Kerr Contracting Limited, as per their submission of $823,124 plus HST, that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents, and furthermore, that the estimate of $125,000 budget overage be funded by option A, the road structures reserve. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. So we'll move into bylaws. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bougie, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. It looks like I read backwards. I should look over Deputy Mayor Lang more often. So moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-33 be received, in the bylaw 2024-13 being a bylaw to accept certain lands as road allowances pursuant to the conditions of severance B 2523, and to dedicate same to the public use as public highway, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of March 2024. I believe this is Ms. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The bylaw that's before council this evening is essentially an administrative process that is required to meet the conditions of a severance application. So subject to any questions, it's really just a sort of housekeeping administrative item.
Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Yes, I guess it is a housekeeping item, but at the same time, what's happened before this is the part that I don't agree with, is that we've basically told somebody that qualified for a severance that they could have that severance as long as they give us some of their property for free. And I just still don't think that's right. So someday we need to do something about that. I mention it every time, but I never get around to, but maybe I'll push a little harder, because the term will be up before you know it. But I just don't feel right about blackmailing people, saying, yes, we'll give you your severance as long as you give us some land for free. And I think we should be paying them fair market value. It wouldn't amount to a lot of money, but I think it would be the right thing to do.
Are there further comments on that one? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. So we'll go to item 8B, 6055 Fourth Line Road, zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Haley, and I'll just read the motion. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Excuse me. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-35 be received, and that bylaw 2024-15 being bylaw to amend bylaw 3809, the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of South Glengarry, to rezone the property legally described as part of Lot 9, Concession 1, being Part 1 of RP, registered plan, 14R5459, in the geographic Township of South, or Lancaster, now the Township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, located at 6055 Fourth Line Road, PIN 6713706262, from Highway Commercial CH to Highway Commercial Exception 10, CH10, to permit the following. Part 7.1, add the following additional permitted uses: transportation terminal and warehouse distribution center. Part 3.397C, reduce the required 30-meter watercourse setback for development and site alteration to 15 meters. Part 3.37, permit shipping containers on the subject property located only in the rear yard and stacked no more than 2 high. Part 3.5, permitted a transportation terminal as a use without the erecting of a building on the subject property. Part 4.118, permitting more than 50% of lot frontage as driveways and parking on subject property, be read a first, second, third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of March 2024. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no public comments were received on this application that resulted in the need to deny the requested zoning amendment. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just go through the staff report and highlight a few items that I believe should be reported. So as you mentioned, this property is located at 6055 Fourth Line Road, known as Curry Hill area. The property is approximately 15.51 acres. The northern portion of the subject property contains a single detached dwelling, a mobile home that's no longer occupied, as well as a cell tower, a communication tower. And the southern portion was previously farmed and recently filled with gravel. That resulted in the need to apply for an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. Tonight, the staff report is dealing with the zoning bylaw amendment because the official plan amendment has already been approved by the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. So as you mentioned in the proposed resolution, they're looking for a highway commercial zone exception 10 to permit a few extra items that you've already indicated. As part of a complete application, we required an environmental impact study to be prepared and submitted, and that was completed. And we also retained a firm by the name of SEMA Plus to do a peer review of that study. The peer review resulted in not being able to support the requested 10-meter setback, hence the reason for proposing now a reduction of the watercourse setback from 30 meters to 15 meters. And the applicant is aware of this and agreeable to this. In the staff report, we highlight all the applicable sections of the provincial policy statement as well as the official plan that pertain to why we can support this proposed zoning amendment. So I'm not going to go into those in detail. In regards to the public process, we are required to have a public meeting, and that meeting was held on January 15th, 2024 for both the official plan amendment as well as for the zoning bylaw amendment. At that meeting, we received no verbal comments from members of the public. No one attended that meeting. However, we did receive a written comment from a member of the public, and that member was looking for clarification on what the requested zoning amendment was, and also provided some knowledge that he felt would be valuable. I met with that member of public on January 18th, 2024 to ensure that his comments were heard. We also circulated the zoning amendment to the Ministry of Transportation, as it's so close to the 401 highway. You'll see in the comments included in the staff report that the ministry had no objections to the proposed amendment. We also circulated the application to the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry Transportation Department. They didn't have any comments back to us by the time we were authoring this report. However, they've participated in a few different pre-consultation meetings, so the staff is well aware and they provided their feedback as to what their expectations were, both in terms of the zoning and official plan amendment process as well as the upcoming site plan control process if this is approved. So I feel like the county has been heard and their input was considered during that part of the process. We also circulated to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. They have quite lengthy comments in the report, but in a nutshell, they have no objection to the proposed amendment. And lastly, we circulated the application to CN. And CN had various comments. They don't object to the proposed amendment, but the comments that they included are comments that we will be incorporated in the site plan control process or stage if this is approved. When we have a combined official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, we're provided a little bit longer time by the province to process these applications. When you have a combined applications like this, we're given 120 days as opposed to 90 days. So the goal is to always make sure we're meeting our timeframes and not delaying the process unnecessarily. In this case, because we had all the complete information, we had the studies, the peer review completed. If council approves this evening, a decision will be made on day 89 of the process. So we're certainly well within our 120-day requirement. So as you mentioned in the proposed resolution, we're recommending that this application be approved, and it be approved to Highway Commercial Exception 10 to allow for a transportation terminal warehouse distribution center, to reduce the 30-meter watercourse setback to 15 meters, permit shipping containers that can be in the rear yard, and also permitting a transportation terminal without erecting a building on the area that the property is gravelled, as well as permitting more than 50% of the lot frontage as driveways and parking. So I'd be happy to answer any questions of council if there's any.
Are there any questions of council? All right, well, we've heard the motion is read. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8C, amended Human Resource Policies and Procedures Manual. I'll look to my left to get a mover. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-34 being received and that bylaw 2024-14 being a bylaw to adopt a human resource policies and procedures manual for the Township of South Glengarry be read a first, second, third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of March 2024. Mrs. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. As our CAO, Mr. Robertson, I think has previously indicated to council, the senior management team has been undergoing a collaborative review of some of our bylaws and policies, making sure everything's up to date and everybody's on the same page. So we've recently undertaken a review of some of our HR policies contained in the HR Policy and Procedures Manual. And there's some housekeeping amendments required just to keep up with some changes that came as a result of our collective agreement that was adopted in 2021, I believe, or 2022. Yeah, 2022. As well as some, with our, the cost of living policy, which council approved by resolution last year. That change hasn't been implemented into the HR Policies and Procedures Manual. So really the recommendations that are coming before you tonight to update in the policy are just amendments that are housekeeping in nature that council has either previously adopted through the collective agreement or through other discussions. Probably the one change that was not part of the collective agreement or previous resolution is the policy regarding parental and pregnancy leave. But this, some of you might recall, back in 2022, the United Counties adopted this policy, and I believe it was our intent at that time to approve the same policy here. It just seemed to slip through the cracks and didn't actually go through the process to be amended. So subject to any questions on any of the recommended changes, which were all highlighted in yellow in the report that you received, that is the report that's before you this evening.
One, I'd like to thank you for the highlighting in yellow the changes, because there's nothing worse than chasing changes. I did have a question on 2 items. Did other council members have? No? Okay, so on page 146, which has to do with the cost of living adjustment for non-union employees, just from some past experience, I see that we have for 3 years immediately preceding the year of the increase. I don't, like, that might be similar to county writing, but it had been past practice to do September to September, because that number comes available October 15th, which allows you to prepare for a budget in November. So I don't know if that's like a friendly housekeeping amendment, or if we want to change that. I wasn't part of that conversation, given that I had to declare pecuniary interest for the changing it to 1 to 3 because of an employee that would benefit that's related. So I don't, it says here, each year and based on consumer price index for Ontario for 3 years immediately preceding the year of the increase. So it had typically been like a 1 year, like we took it from September to September 15th. That information is available on October 15th. So I don't know if that's something we can correct. And sorry? Okay. Well, just because if it's just the way it's written here, January 1st each year based on consumer price index for the 3 years immediately preceding, in theory, that gives every year 3 years, as I read it, like it would give 3 years of, and it is nitpicking, yes, but I just, I just don't want it to come back to us and say, like, hey, here's 3 years of increase, you've approved it. Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Yeah, I did read it and noticed that it was, like, seems to be averaging the last 3 years. And I had thought we were just going to go with the previous year. If it was above 3%, it would be only 3%. If it was below 1%, it would be 1%. If it was 0 or negative, then it would just stay the same. And I didn't I was a little concerned, or not concerned, but surprised that we had said we were going to average 3 years. So I don't know if that's, it's the counties, I didn't think the counties were doing it that way either. I thought it was just the previous year, we would go with a maximum of 3, minimum of 1.
And in this case, to take away from the nitpickiness, perhaps we just change that 3 to a 1 and then allow it to practice how it works for the budgeting cycle. Because are we able to do that or would that be?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the wording that's included in this policy is taken from a resolution that council passed outside of this. So that would require procedurally, I think, a motion to not reconsider. I don't have an immediate answer on that. I'd like to take a look before giving you a definitive answer on that one, just because it's something that was approved by a resolution outside of this policy. So I was really just, when that resolution was passed, it was this wording and that the policy be amended to reflect this. So you might have to reconsider or amend the previous decision. I would have to, it's not something we do every meeting, so I'd have to refresh my memory on the best way to do that procedurally.
Okay, so the first thing, is this something that interests council to make that change from 3 years to 1 year? Because if not, then obviously we just carry on. Councillor McInnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just thinking back now, is this the wording for union or is there a difference? Because I know this came separate from non-union.
This is non-union.
I'm along the same lines as the deputy mayor as well. I don't remember that ever being in it. No, I'm second guessing it. Thank you for bringing it up, Mayor.
No, that's all right. So in that regard, can we read this a first, second, and then come back with perhaps a resolution next meeting and a third and final reading? Or what would you recommend procedurally if we do wish to change that particular, that 3 years to 1 year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, would you afford me a minute just to
Yes.
check something before I answer that?
Of course, yes. And if I may, then too, the other thing I wanted to highlight, just for everybody, because our union agreement does say any new national or provincial, and I do thank you for highlighting those, that we now have, instead of 12 stat holidays, 14 stat holidays for all employees. So that's kind of like an extra bonus perhaps that we can use as a attraction to retention as well as hiring. 2 more days. I think for the audience out there, we're just looking at a past resolution to see how it was written, and we'll be back in a moment. Just doing procedural things. Well, we have a moment, perhaps it's, is there any events coming up that council's aware of that we can make the public aware of this weekend? I don't know if there's anything on the schedules that might be good for the community. I know Councillor Jaworski said coming in April there is a Glengarry history reading. It will be done by Alan McDonald, the archivist, so if you're interested, you can find that there. There's a roads tour coming up, just to inform council, SCNG roads tour that Deputy Mayor and I will be on, I believe, April 12th, so we can give you some follow-up there. Oh, the canoe race, thank you, Councillor McDonnell, will be coming up. That's on a Saturday. Please feel free to support South Glengarry's smashing of the South Glengarry-South Stormont rivalry, if we can call it that, with an hour difference between Councillor Deputy Mayor Gaindo and our Chief of Fire Robertson. We had a swifter boat, and we'll get back to regular proceedings.
Sorry, thank you for forwarding me that minute, Mr. Mayor. So I just pulled up the resolution. So at the January meeting in 2023, the resolution was passed, and it is the 3 years immediately preceding. So that was what was passed by resolution last year. And so if you were wanting to change that, we would have to defer the passing of this evening, because we'd have to reconsider the resolution passed in January of last year.
So is that it can be perfectly fine to use the previous 3-year average. That's nothing to do. If this is what council wants, we can just proceed. Otherwise, it would be the year following, and we'd have to defer this particular motion this evening. Mayor Lang?
I'd be in favor of deferring it. I think most of these policies are in place already. We're using them. This part of it is not, we're not going to need it till near the end of the year. And I'd like to have another look at it. It does seem odd to me that we're going to average the 3 years and then pick what the rate's going to be the next year. And I mean, I don't think we did that in the past. I think it was always based on the previous year. So maybe, maybe there was a reason. I can't remember back when we did it, if there's a reason, but I think we could look into it, bring it back next meeting, and if it gets passed, then we can pass the both of them.
Deputy Mayor, Councillor McDonnell?
I'll second for that.
Okay, great. So do I postpone right here? Okay, so then, I've never read a postponement before. So you've heard the resolution, and then all those in favor of postponing? Carried. And thank you for finding that original resolution. So now we'll move into items for consideration. 9A, support resolution, Ontario's economic prosperity and quality of life. I have Councillor Jaworski has moved it. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Bougie. Sorry, Deputy Mayor Lang, I think I saw your hand go up, but I saw that one first. So here's another longer one. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie, whereas current provincial municipal fiscal arrangements are undermining Ontario's economic prosperity and quality of life, and whereas nearly a third of municipal spending in Ontario is for services in areas of provincial responsibility, and expenditures are outpacing provincial contributions by nearly $4 billion a year. And whereas municipal revenues such as property taxes do not grow with the economy or inflation, and whereas unprecedented population and housing growth will require significant investments in municipal infrastructure, and whereas municipalities are being asked to take on complex health and social challenges like homelessness, supporting asylum seekers, and addressing the mental health and addictions crisis, and whereas inflation and rising interest rates and provincial policy decisions are sharply constraining municipal fiscal capacity, and whereas property taxpayers, including people on fixed incomes and small businesses, cannot afford to subsidize income redistribution programs for those in most need, and whereas the province can and should invest more in the prosperity of communities, and whereas municipalities and the provincial government have strong history of collaboration, be it resolved that the province of Ontario commit to undertaking with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review to promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be circulated to all municipalities in Ontario. Councillor Jaworski, you were the one to move this. I believe you brought it forward. Did you wish to comment further? Yes, it is. Councillor Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Just a note that this exact same resolution was passed at County Council this morning, too.
All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving into consent agenda, there were 3 items pulled, I believe. 10I, 10J, and 10N. The first one being need for increased funding for libraries and museums, Town of Lincoln. Counselor Jaworski? No, that's a good. Well, that's a good idea. I wonder, we have a fairly eloquent curator who could perhaps help staff draft kind of the history and what happened, and then we can bring that resolution if they help to council. Councilor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've had this conversation with Councillor Jaworski as well as with members of that are associated with the museum. And in my former capacity, I had reached out. This is an active funding grant that is still operating, but is not accepting current and new applications. It's no different than any other one that they close. I think it's a waste of our time to send that letter, personally. It's nothing against Mr. Jaworski. I agree. It'd be great to get some funding for our local museum, but at this point in time, it's a closed grant. You're asking the province to open a grant that they've closed. It's the same as us going to them and saying, you used to have a grant for water and wastewater. We'd like you to open that again. I just don't think we should be using our time and using essentially our asks and putting our name on something that, if we were to have the choice between getting this grant for the museum and getting money for water and wastewater in Glenmalta, I know where my ask is going to be, just personally.
No, that's a fair comment. I guess I'm looking around council to see if we want to support perhaps writing a resolution or not, I guess, because we have 1-1 right now. Deputy Mayor Lang?
So just to be clear, are we supporting the resolution that, from the town of Lincoln? Or are we looking, or just using it as a talking point and looking to write our own request to get back into the funding stream for the museums?
If I understood Councillor Jaworski properly, I believe it's to ask for ourselves, not the town of Lincoln. Is that correct or both? That's correct, okay. So it's for,
No, no, you're correct. And just
it almost sounds like a definition, new applicant versus new money, but Counselor McDonnell?
Just, I don't know. Personally, I think we're beating a dead horse on it. I spent countless hours trying to get this back, and the answer to the MPP's office at the time was, new applications are not being accepted. As soon as they are, we'll make it public. I just think you're wasting your time with this, and I don't want to waste staff time writing a letter for this, personally. You guys can vote in favor of doing it. I'm not going to. I wasted enough of my time. I don't think staff should.
All right. Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it'll be too much time to write a letter and maybe just word it that, you know, because maybe there's people that are dropping off. I would think they're likely not going to want to, but if an opening comes up, just say that we are, you know, we're still interested in this. It's not going to, wouldn't be too forceful, because I do believe Councillor McDonnell's right. There's bigger fish to fry, so, but it's not going to hurt anything, I think, just to put a letter out there. So I'd be okay with it.
Okay. Counselor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would agree with Deputy Mayor Lang. I would be okay with it. Maybe just ask for any funding, right, for the museum, a request. Maybe not necessarily this as well, but maybe in general. Maybe there's another avenue for funds that they can draw us to, but.
And I would truly, if we can, on the staff side, do ask Mrs. Goodfellow, or I think her name's Thorette now, Goodfellow Thorette, to say she's probably quite eloquent and can get a lot of that information to us. So if we reach out to her, perhaps she can write it, because that saves us a little staff time and the back and forth. So please have a resolution drafted for CMOG and our museum in the Glengarry Loyalist Museum. All right. Resolution, amend Blue Box Regulation, Chatham-Kent 10J. Deputy Mayor Lang, as well as Councillor Jaworski. We'll go Deputy Mayor Lang first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And I know we've talked about it in the past, and that we're all quite aware that the Blue Box program is changing. The producers are now responsible for collecting the recycling and looking after it. It'll be out of our hands. But we've also talked about the fact that it won't totally be out of our hands, because the producers are only responsible for residential recycling. So that doesn't include businesses, place of worship, daycare, campgrounds, public facing and internal areas of municipal-owned buildings, and not-for-profit organizations such as shelters and food banks. And I'm just reading right off this resolution that came from Chatham-Kent. And because of that, depending on how, I don't know exactly how it's going to work here, but I do agree with Chatham-Kent. They're asking the province to open this up and make the producers responsible for all recycling, and don't leave some of it out there. Now, it'll be a little harder maybe for big cities, but even for us, you know, there's going to be people in our community that are going to want recycling picked up that are not going to be eligible. And are we going to try to do that our own? It's going to be really expensive then if you're going to try to do just a small amount of it. You know, there's always, you know, efficiencies in size. But anyway, I just thought we could support them. They'd like to see the province look after, tell the producers have to look after it all, not just the residential. And we'll see how it pans out. I haven't heard too much, whether some municipalities are on board already. We're not till the end of next year, I guess, but I'd like to support this one.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski? And in talking to the mayor of Tony Fraser of North Dundas, he mentioned also the caveat that if you have a commercial, his reading was if it's commercial in the bottom and residential above, you might have residents who aren't getting picked up because it's designated commercial. So there are a few loopholes there. So approval to support. We're going to support this motion. Excellent. Please write a support motion for the next council meeting. Resolution Gardner Expressway and the Don Valley Parkway, 10N, County of Lambton.
Was me as well.
Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting that, and I don't know if it's going to be pertain to us 100%, but the province is assuming they're going to start paying for the Gardner Expressway and the Don Valley Parkway instead of the City of Toronto. So they're acknowledging that the City of Toronto is having a tough time, as all municipalities are, in trying to look after our infrastructure. But they're actually going to step in and help the City of Toronto with a couple of major roads. So I think what this resolution is kind of saying is, look, if you're going to step in and help the City of Toronto, you got to think about the other 443 municipalities in this province that are having a tough time. Now, we may not be the same size, but we're finding it tough to be able to pave roads, to, as Councillor Bougie said, what, 50% increase in our gravel over a couple of years, like it's tough. So I don't know if the resolution, the way it's worded, if it's 100% what would suit us, but I think the premise behind it is that it's time for the province to really look at what they're funding and what they're not funding. And we had a previous resolution that spoke a little bit towards that, but it's something's going to happen sooner or later, or we're going to have to start really downgrading.
Would you be looking for a support resolution to this one or a particular one for ourselves?
I'm okay supporting this resolution. I don't know if they're saying to take over roads, like I don't know that as a township we have roads that we want the province to take over specifically, but I think just the fact that they're helping them financially on their roads, their infrastructure, and they're not helping the rest of the other municipalities as of yet. So maybe it could be worded a little bit differently, but.
Okay, would everybody be in favor of that? Yes. Okay, so I guess there's some room to make a support resolution that bring it back. And I mean, if it's a miss, we can always defer it and rewrite it next time. So, but you have the direction is to support this one and then make it about ourselves as well. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lang. So to finish the consent agenda, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski, be it resolved that the council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We will be moving into closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 8:08 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001. 2. A meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if subject matter being considered is K, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on by the municipality, specifically instructions for negotiations. And then F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, specifically litigation. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. So we will reconvene to open after going through closed. I imagine many of you will, it's a quick out, so have a good evening on the camera, and thank you to everybody on staff and council for attending this meeting. So this is a resolution to come out of closed session, moved by Counselor Jaworski, seconded by Counselor McDonnell. Be it resolved that council rise and reconvene at 9:31 PM into open session without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Counselor McDonnell, seconded by Counselor Bougie. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. So we'll go into the confirming bylaw, moved by Counselor McDonnell, seconded by Counselor Bougie. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-16, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, third time, passed, signed, and sealed, Noman Council this, oh yeah, I could just say this, this 18th day of March. All those in favor? Carried. And then adjournment, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 9:33 PM. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good evening, everyone, and thank you.